All right, this is Quick Draw from Raw Power Mag. My guests today are Margarita Monet and Dave Bates from the melodic, cinematic, and industrial rock act Edge of Paradise. The group is based in Los Angeles and has been active since 2011. The current lineup is Margarita Monet, vocals and keyboards, Dave Bates, guitars, Doug Weiland or Weand, not sure which, and he's on guitar as well. Jamie Moreno on drums and Kenny Lockwood on the bass. And I want to just mention three things that I love about this band. I love the lead vocals. I love the heavy guitar sound that you guys are able to get, and I love the album cover art. So I want to thank you guys for joining me today, and I'll be throwing a lot of questions at you.
Thank you for
Cool.
having us and thank you for the introduction.
All right, cool. Thank you. So I want to start off with some songwriting and influences. What motivated you guys to get into music, and who are some of your main inspirations?
For me, I've always been in music, but I started playing classical piano since I was little. And when I met Dave, I never really intended to be in a band, but when I met him, our visions aligned that we really wanted to create something and put all our efforts, all the energy into that and take it as far as we can. Um, but he comes from a different background. He's more of a metal rock guy. So it took us a few years to really figure out how to merge our styles and really evolve our sound. And, it's a constant evolution. But I think since our album in 2019, The Universe, that's when we really found our path. And, for me, inspiration, like I've always been fascinated with, science and kind of otherworldly settings, but still something very human in the same way. So I think it shows in the music. I always like to write songs, kind of set them in these grand scenarios, but the ultimate message is very, human and what we're all going through, and actually kind of mirroring what the whole society is going through with technology and everything. And musically, I love movie soundtracks. I love classical music. So for me, I think that's kind of the biggest inspiration. But I also love like Nine Inch Nails. So I think that's kind of the industrial cinematic influence.
Cool. How about you, Dave? Who are your influences?
My influences were always from the guitar side, like Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads, all the great guitar players. And musically, Black Sabbath and stuff like that growing up, I really just liked great songs, big riffs, heavy bottom end. And, then I started to listen to more industrial stuff. I mean, mostly just guitar was the calling, but when I hear good songs, that's something I always wanted to delve into and figure out how does that come to be? How do great songs happen? And a lot of it's luck, but along the way, producers play a big part. And we were lucky to, as we started to search for a sound, because I originally, Margarita was doing a project, and I got approached to play on a couple of songs, and so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And from there, once we moved past that, finding a sound that would suit vocally her style and my heavy riffing was like a research project, because we started to mesh things in it, and it was hard to find some common ground. So I knew Bob Kulick from working on different projects back in the day. So we went originally to Bob Kulick and started having him produce a couple of tracks, and we were trying to fish out a sound. And then eventually we're lucky enough to work with Michael Wagner on some of the earlier stuffs, which, he's done so many great albums that I listened to growing up, from Ozzy, Doc and Warren, Poison, all the 80s guys, and into Motley Crue and stuff like that, Metallica. So we were still fishing for a sound, and we kind of, after that, moved towards the industrial thing. And then we figured that kind of fit the whole sci-fi modern thing, so we wouldn't be stuck typecast into something that's just a rehash. We could delve into new sounds without having to be, either stuck or typecast. Because like a lot of things, if you go in one direction, it kind of determines what comes next. It's like music. When you choose a key, you've put yourself into a box, right? So when you go in a direction of sonic landscape, you're kind of dictating the next steps that have to follow. So going into an industrial kind of thing, it took all the limits off, because there really is, you can almost do anything in that realm. You can make sounds, you can have the sci-fi vibe. And so after that seemed to be a good fit for us, moving into that whole sci-fi kind of industrial realm.
Do
And that
uh,
kind
do the two of you write most of the songs? It seems like you do. And Dave, are you writing? Are you both writing the music? And then who writes the lyrics? Is it Margarita writing the lyrics for the most part, or how does that process of writing an EOP song go?
Well, it
I
depends
mean,
on the song, or it depends on the album. Like sometimes I make the whole song on the keyboard and then I go and record the vocals, and then Dave, he figures out the guitar sound and makes it more into a metal song. Sometimes he would like come in and be like, "This sounds like musical theater," and then he would kind of put
yeah.
guitars. But the last album, I have to also add that Doug, Wayant, he brought in the eight-string guitars, and he really helped with a lot of songwriting on that as well, just kind of adding more depth, and it gave Dave more room to kind of even expand on his guitar playing. So it was cool how adding that element really expanded the power or the range of the
And
songs, kind of
even
adding
with
that.
Jamie now, Jamie's a part of the writing. So as it's grown, more so the other members have become a bigger part of the writing, because like Jamie on drums, Jamie Moreno, he's been with us for a while. So he kind of fits the mold now, because the sound is a culmination of all of the members involved too. And bringing Doug in took it into a slightly different direction, and it's been a cool path to go down. It's even heavier and more industrial. So with all of the folks involved, we're grateful that we have them contributing to the sound.
Very cool. Very cool. Um, Margarita, so to sing lead in this genre, you really have to possess an exceptional, unique vocal talent, and your voice really soars. It's powerful, but at the same time, it's also smooth. It's not raspy, for example, like Maria Brink of In the Moment. I love this, and I love her voice too, but I love the strong melodic, operatic, and gothic tones that you get. And I'm just wondering, you know, when did you realize you could sing this type of metal and also front such a heavy act like this? When did it dawn upon you you had that type of talent?
Well, thank you for the compliments. I think I still am evolving as a singer. I never really went into this as a singer, and I had to learn a lot. I think, the very first few albums, like Mask and Immortal Waltz, like that doesn't really even sound like us, but it gave me a chance to really figure out how I can sing. I think what helped me a lot is having a mindset that the song leads the way. So whatever melody I hear, whatever lyrics or whatever message that I want to convey, that's the most important part. And then I figure out how to do that with my voice. So it kind of really created this sense that I don't have limits, and whatever limits I encounter, I have to figure out how to, break the barriers. But also with time and experience, your voice evolves. The more I sing, the more control I have, and but for me, the most important thing is kind of um, following the melody and following the lyrics and following, the heart, I would say.
That's cool. Well, that's really humble. That's a really humble answer from you, Margarita. because it's just a great voice. And I also want to, we had talked about the production a little bit, so maybe this next question has already been covered. But as I mentioned, your music is really well produced. It's powerful. Love the guitar tones. And I'm just briefly just wondering how you achieve the heavy guitar sounds. Some of the stuff is just incredible. Some of those guitar sounds that you guys have put together. And I wanted to make a list, but I ran out of time. I wanted to make a list of some of the songs that I felt just had incredible guitar sounds. But Dave, why don't you comment on that as far as getting those sounds?
Yeah, the process of getting the sounds really is led by the song too. I mean, but obviously, it's fun when you go in the studio and you really delve into different amps and tunings, and now we're lucky we usually go and work with Mike Plotnikoff at his studio and fish out some of the sounds. And we're not limited to what amps we can use. So, but I mean, moreover, it is led by the song, and the idea is to get it as heavy on the bottom as possible, but still carry the melody and the clarity. So sometimes the chords are not filled out as much as they could, or we'll leave out notes in the middle of the chord just so it doesn't get too washed out. We might leave the fifths out, do octaves and stack them. Definitely leave out the thirds, and sometimes we'll put the thirds and the sevenths on the top and the top melodies in the background. And I'm sure that's what happens with the keyboards as well. So a lot of
Yeah,
the color tones end up there.
I have to add that, Dave and I always wanted to make sure, even when we first started, to make sure that production is as top notch as we can get it. So all our funds would always, we didn't limit ourselves, and we always tried to figure it out. And I remember we heard Volbeat and we were like, wow, they sound amazing. I wonder who mixes them. So we found Jacob Hansen through Volbeat, and we messaged him right away, and that's been our production team for these 5 albums now. Yeah, so it's Jacob and Mike Plotnikov. I mean, we do also record a lot at home and send the files to Jacob. But we've been recording with Mike Plotnikov, most of the instruments, especially vocals, drums, most of the guitars. But sending everything to Jacob, he really does his magic, and he really gets our sound because we do have so many layers. So we always have to be very careful to make sure all the instruments complement each other, and he really gets our sound. And however he mixes it, he really uh, gets that power and clarity, and he's amazing to work with. So
Where are Michael and Jacob located? I know you guys are in LA.
Mike is in Los Angeles. He's not that far from us, and Jacob is in Denmark. We actually visited his studio when we were on tour with Symphony X. He has an amazing studio. But yeah, he's out in Denmark.
And where are
Yeah,
you
the
guys based?
files go all over.
Yeah.
Files bounce back and forth.
Sure, that's the world today. You know,
Yeah, for
that's how you
sure.
do it. Where are you guys from originally?
I'm actually right now in Houston visiting family. So I lived here since I was 11, but I was born in Armenia and I grew up in Moscow till I was 11. So I kind of been all over. And Dave is from Connecticut.
Yeah, I'm from Connecticut originally. I came out to LA to go to GIT. Like a lot of folks, I wanted to pursue the Paul Gilbert School of Shredding, and that's what brought me to LA.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, we Moscow's a great city. I had a chance to visit there and play a couple little shows and clubs like maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, great place. And Denmark too. Denmark's wonderful. Uh, Can't remember. I mean, Connecticut's a cool state too. It's been a long time since we've been there. But now you're
Small.
LA based, kind of like so many people are. The band I have, we started in San Diego, but eventually, like most of our people are now based in LA. That's just where so much of the talent is, so much is happening there. All the recording studios. It is a great place to be if you're doing the kind of thing that you're doing.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Well, traffic, and there's a few things I don't love about it, which is one
Right.
reason I'm in Costa Rica right now.
I know, you're lucky. I'm
Yeah.
freezing here. It was hot yesterday and now it's crazy cold.
Well, it's hot here all the time. So, some days are great though, but I dig it. I still love San Diego. We have a home base in San Diego still, but we split the time. But I wanted to get into your group. As I've been following you over the years, it just seems like the group has not changed that much, which is a real credit to the two of you because there's so much turnover in groups like this, right? I mean, it's your group, but you've kept the people together. So you must be nice people to work with, I would assume, because people stay with you. Like Jamie, he started with Liquid Blue back in 2016. He's done a lot of subbing for our group, but and you guys, were already together at that point. You said he's been with you since like 2019, right? Well, how long has that core group that you have now been together?
Um, yeah, so I think since 2019, and shortly after we found our bassist Kenny Lockwood. So we've been a core since that time. The only change was we had Doug join us on a guitar and David Ruiz. So he kind of took David's place. And, sometimes like I always wanted to have, core of people that's, in it together forever, pretty much. But sometimes it's just not realistic because as the band grows, there's more responsibility, there's more demand, it's harder. And, it's
Yeah.
not easy to be in a band and, everybody has to bring something to the table. You have to practice, you have to be available, it's just so much that goes into it. So sometimes these changeovers are just inevitable, unfortunately, but
Yeah. It's
it
more
is
than the
what it is.
music, if it was just playing the instruments, which would be the easy part, there's just a lot more, as far as traveling and being available all the time and having the commitment level to be able to, always be down for whatever it requires. And obviously 2019 we had the change due because of COVID. And so prior to COVID, things were going in a direction. They were moving up pretty quickly, like most people, and then COVID hit, and that kind of brought us into a new version of the band. So I think that's where we had that kind of crossroads and had a changeover then, primarily because the COVID shift and things were changing. We changed management, we changed labels, we changed all kinds of stuff at that point.
Right, right. Well, I mean, it is really tough in this day and age to keep a group together. We have lots of turnover in our group. It just happens. Things evolve. Um, there's a lot going on, but obviously the two of you are the core, but you have done a really good job keeping those people as long as you have. So I think that's great. And I remember when Jamie joined your group, he was very, very excited. And he's a loyal guy and everything. And so he's a big asset. I would love to hear him turned up a little bit more in the drums. That this is my only complaint when I listen to you guys, and take it for what it is. It's not a big deal. But I always felt like his drums were just a little down in the mix for what they could be. And that's not because I know the guy. It's just from my own standpoint. If I was producing you, I'd bring up those drums a little bit more. Guitars are sitting perfectly, I think, and I think the vocals perfect. But that's my only thing, but not a big
He's
deal.
gonna like to hear that. I'm gonna tell him.
I mean, a lot has to do with the producer and the sound, and as you know, the sounds that the producer chooses for the drums are his own personal thing. And
Yeah.
we kind of let Jacob do what he wants. And even the guitars, sometimes when the guitars go out, they're really raw. And when they come back, it's a little more polished and it takes some time getting used to. But we've come to trust Jacob so much that like we know he's going to do the best thing for the song. And it takes a little getting used to usually because we get attached to the original version and the energy that it has. But when it comes back, it's so polished it just becomes a different thing, you know?
Yeah,
I
for
did have
sure.
to say when we play live, Jamie is always the loudest. He has his drum kit, it's mic, like he has the most microphones, so he's happy.
Yeah, we've experienced that with him as well. Sometimes we've even had to say, "Hey, man, you got to turn down a little bit." We play a whole different type of thing. So for your thing, that's great. It's great to have a loud, powerful drummer, and that's cool. So I wanted to get into your image a little bit. I really like the image that you guys have created. I can tell that you've spent some time with that, and I like the fact that unlike some groups in your genre, you haven't done the image with a whole bunch of heavy makeup. You haven't gone that direction. Your group is already very photogenic. Everybody looks great, and you don't really need any gimmicks, it seems to me. But I'm gonna guess that Margarita is the most hands-on with the image. But tell me
Yeah.
about how you have brought that image forth. And then after you answer that question, I'm going to talk about your album covers. But just the band image, band photos, the live image and stuff. Can you tell me about that, Margarita?
Yeah, well, for me, I come from more like theater. I went to um theater school, and that's my background. So for me, it's always been important to have the visuals match the music and just the story of the band. So I started incorporating a lot of my art in it, and just live a lot of the music videos I make. It's just super important for me. So sometimes they get maybe frustrated with me because I'm like, we have to make sure we wear something that fits, or when we take photos, like I like to, you know, create the world around it. Like I take out the whole background and just teleport us somewhere else. So I don't know, it's just really important for me. So we put a lot of attention and time um on that whole thing. Um, so
You've done
I
a
mean,
great job
yeah.
of, you've done a really good job of that. It's obvious that your band has a really curated image, makes sense with the music, and it's just part of the whole thing. Once you kind of dive into Edge of Paradise, you have both sides of it. You have the visual and the audio, and it's a great combination. I noticed that all the guys have great hair, and I'm seriously jealous about that.
Oh, you
I
have great hair too.
well, for 65, it's not terrible, but no, you guys have a really good thing going there. And then speaking of image, your album covers are stunning, and especially your last release, The Unknown. Um, or no, not, I'm sorry, it's not your latest release, but it's my favorite album from you guys. It's The Unknown, and also Prophecy has a wonderful cover. Those two to me are just amazing. So who's your album cover artist? How did you come up with the cover ideas? Did that person come up with them, or Margarita, did you have a lot to do with the covers?
Um, so for the unknown, it was Alex Ruiz, and he also did our cover for hologram. So for cover albums, I usually like to step out and kind of collaborate with someone else and have how they interpret the music. Of course, they always ask me, what do you envision? And um, we, oh yeah, So. But with the unknown, I actually looked at Alex's work, and he already had that image of the face. And I was like, I don't know, something about that just speaks to me. And it's such a great representation of the music that that cover was pretty much done. I just added a little bit of elements and the fonts and like the flares and just kind of those extra elements, but the cover was pretty much done. Now for hologram and for prophecy, I was a little bit more involved. For hologram, Alex also did that one, but we went back and forth a lot. I kind of gave him the concept. I sketched out what I wanted, and then he kind of created the art around that. For Prophecy, we worked with someone, another artist, David Libby, and he had that head, like the robot head, sort of. And I was like, I love that. So, he let me use that image, and then I kind of, um, and then he had another one. It was like a combination of two of his pieces, and then I added around that. So it was more of a collaborative process. But he had that main kind of focal point, that head, the AI head. So, yeah.
All right. So yeah, now that we're talking about these albums, let's get into the music a little bit. So as I mentioned, my favorite album is The Unknown. It was from 2021, and I was wondering if that was written during COVID.
Yeah, the whole album. We were in studio when everything was on lockdown, and we had Neil Sanderson from 3 Days Grace. He was on Zoom the whole time from Canada. So it was us in the studio with Mike Plotnikoff and Neil, from Zoom. Um, and then we work with Howard Benson as well, and he's also local, and I went to record some of the vocals with him. But yeah, we made the whole album during COVID. We filmed the videos during COVID, or as it was easing up. But
So
I mean,
that
all our
album
tours were
and that
canceled, so we had to.
yeah, and that album it was a lot longer process because we had all the time during the shutdown for COVID, but we originally finished the whole album. And then I think Mike took and showed it to Howard Benson, and then Howard expressed interest in producing some of the tracks. So we're like, well, that sounds interesting. Why not? Right. So he came in and co-produced a few of the tracks, and he brought Neil Sanderson in, and that kind of springboarded into redoing some of the songs, and just kept doing them over and over until it came to be what it was. And then we did a couple cover songs shortly after that with Neil playing drums, and we were going to do a cover album, but then we got back to touring. So
Cool,
it
cool.
was an interesting time.
I've created a playlist on Spotify called Essential Edge of Paradise. What it is basically my favorite tracks. So this is strictly my taste and what I like, but I'm just gonna read it to you for the heck of it and see what you think. So
Cool.
my favorite track is the title track from The Unknown, and then False Idols, Digital Paradise, My Method, Your Madness, and Believe, all those from that album. And then The Other Side of Fear is a song I love from Prophecy. And then from Universe, I love World, Perfect Disaster, and Stars. And then the title track from Hologram. Um, and then another one from Prophecy, Prophecy Unbound. And then the tracks that you guys did with Judge and Jury, Disarm and Love Reign Over Me. So there's 13 songs on that. And those are my favorites. Um, and
Cool.
what about you guys? Do you have any favorite songs that you feel like, we really hit the mark with our recording, and this is something I'll always be kind of the most proud of as my favorite tracks from the group?
Well, a lot of the songs you named, also, I mean, it's hard to say for us, I think, well, for me especially, because a lot of these songs, most of them, well, actually all of them, they're so close to my heart. Because I don't know, I put my heart and soul into every song. That's why I could never understand sometimes, bands say, oh, we wrote so many songs and then we picked what we wanted on the album. I think we work a little different, like whatever idea, we just make it into a song, and each song takes quite a while to create, but it just takes so much out of me. So everyone has a story and is important to me. But I would have to say The Unknown, the title track, is probably one of the most ones that means so much to me, just because of the message and how it came about, and the music, everything about it. And when we do it live, it just has so much meaning. um And then also from the, Prophecy, the most recent album, The Other Side of Fear is really cool because it kind of embodies the message of the band across all albums is to kind of get over the fear and, live life on the other side of fear. So, and, musically, it has that energy um, that I feel like really drives the band. So yeah, and Death Note, Prophecy Unbound, Hear Me. Hear Me was really cool for me because kind of brought me back to my roots of just the piano. So that was cool for me to do.
I like the acoustic track that you guys released as a single too, and I'd love to hear an album where, and it sounded like you were using the same vocal, probably not a re-recording of the vocal on that, but I would personally love to hear an album of a whole different style from you at some point. I know there's just so much to do, but it would be great to hear various tones from your voice and some more piano and maybe a little subtler thing just for fans. I think people would love that as something a little different. But
Yeah,
Dave,
totally.
do you have a favorite, Dave? A favorite recording you guys have done, album or track? Or
Yeah, I think the song Basilisk, I think the mix on it is really cool. And like when we first got that back, I really liked the riff. And once I heard the mix, I was like, man, that's so clean and so punchy. But like some of the songs that I like for the guitar solos, like Other Side of Fear, I like the solo, and like False Idols, like that solo was fun, and a lot of the songs, to reiterate what Margarita said, is it takes a lot. And like any of the guitar solos that actually made it on there, it's like probably played 30 or 40 different versions and worked on it until I was like, nope, throw that away, throw that away, throw that, until it just was the right thing for the song. And not a solo per se, but something that added a little more value to what was already there. Because I didn't want to just solo over the top of a song for the sake of soloing, and nothing like that. None of the parts get added at this at the to at the it has to benefit the song, and if it doesn't, then it goes.
right,
There's no extra filler. There's nothing on top
for
unless it
sure.
fits.
Another favorite track of mine, I mentioned it before, but I wanted to dive a little deeper into this one. It's the track World from the Universe LP. And with today's situation, um, socially and politically, I always think it's important for artists to write meaningful songs relevant to the time. And this one for me hits the mark. And here's a few of the lyrics that kind of stood out to me. Um, so we try to deny to save us regret. And another section you've got we say I love you. We also point out guns. We aim at strangers, but strangers also love. Bullets fly, mothers cry. And then another section, we can make war, hate from the core, and some will watch their money surge. For me, that's the most powerful line because really that's what war is all about is some people are making a lot of money and obviously the
Yeah,
powerful elites send the young and usually poor to war. And we just have so much of that going on in the world. So that song for me is really special. I added it to our World Peace and Democracy playlist on Spotify, which has over 1,000 followers. It hasn't blown up, but it's a decent following there. And I was wondering what prompted you to write this song, and if you can tell me a little more on it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you reading into the lyrics. I put so much thought and, just heart into every single word. I don't think I always used to kind of get upset because Dave never reads my lyrics. I don't think
yeah.
any
I
of the
just listen
guys
to
in
the
the band
guitar.
even know what I'm writing about. But well, I don't know. I think maybe some of them do. But for us, I think we never really talk about politics or just blatantly do any political statements or anything like that. Because for me, I always wanted to create the band that's almost like an escape from reality, something that inspires and empowers and gives this sort of haven for um, inspiration to grow and just feel empowered by our mind and our humanity. So that song, it is a reflection of the world because it is important for me to sometimes really make people think and reflect on our society and the dark sides of society, but also always leave people with some sort of hope or a feeling that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And since the album Universe, I also kind of started talking about the implications of technology really seeping into our daily life, AI especially. The Unknown was actually the album that was really heavily about AI, like Digital Paradise asked the question, what if we could exist in this kind of cyberspace and implications of that. And I used to ask people how they felt about it. And, it's usually like 60% are really against it, 40% were like, oh yeah, it would be nice. And it's really crazy to see how from that time and now AI is so prevalent in our everyday life. And, we're still dealing with these wars and, we never really know the truth of what's going on behind the scenes and, who's making all the money and all of that. But I think it's important to talk about it and to think about it and to be aware that we ultimately have to discern and not believe everything we hear. Because sometimes, things are done to pit people against each other and kind of evoke these wars and evoke the hatred, among people. So I think it's important to, think in those ways, but also to kind of maintain the hopeful spirit, the fire within us, the fire to want to create and keep our humanity and understand that human mind is very, very powerful.
That's a great balance. Yeah. I wanted to get into just what it's like to be an artist these days. And I know you guys are with Napalm Records, who are based in Austria, and your records are distributed through Universal Music Group and Warner Music Group. So those are a couple big hitters. And I'm wondering how those relationships have helped you, and are they going to support your next LP? And just whatever you can. Let me throw in another one too. But what are the challenges for an independent artist on a mid-sized European label? Like the pros and cons to what you guys are doing. And I know that it's just not easy to do what you guys are doing, maintain it, keep pushing it forward because there's just not this huge flow of cash coming in, and you have to be very, very dedicated to continuing forward. The thing is, you have a legitimate product, you have great songs, great albums, great production, so that should inspire you. But I'm just wondering about the relationship of a record company like Napalm working with you guys, the pros and the cons to that.
Yeah, well, I think Napalm now, they're distributed by the Orchard, and I believe Orchard is part owner now. So I don't know, there's always so many like companies buy each other out all the time. But it's a great distribution. But I think these days it's important to remember that it's not like the label is going to come in and just make everything work.
Right.
Still, everything is up to the artist, and whatever the artist does, the label can expand on it and support it. But for us, it's still, we put so much into it ourselves. That's why also like it's important to that we have other channels. There's the art aspect of the band, like we have the graphic novel. There's so many other avenues that, we can keep the band kind of growing. And touring, of course, is the big as it's very important to support, I guess, everything because you can't rely on the music funding anything anymore, especially with streaming and all the contracts. I mean, that's like a whole another conversation. So yeah, it's important to remember that an artist, you have to do a lot and um, have a lot of different avenues to keep fueling everything. And we also owe a lot to our fans because our fans have been with us since day one and they've supported us so much. So
Yeah, when
Yeah,
you're on, when
very
go ahead,
thankful for
Dave.
that.
it's been a bumpy road to get to where we're at, and without the fans, obviously, we wouldn't be anywhere because they're the ones that fuel it, and record labels, whatever they are these days, they help to get a little more awareness, but at the end of the day, it really is pretty much 100% on us to keep the ball rolling. And Margarita does a lot of that, and all of the band members have to help. And it's pretty much everybody's all in, and they have to be all hands in because yeah, nobody's going to do it for you these days. Streaming is brutal, as she said. There isn't much money in the music end of making music, so it is more about keeping the touring going and merchandise and growing the fan base, growing the outer world that's around the music. Yeah, there's one of the versions.
I noticed that your first two LPs, Mask and Eternal Waltz, are not yet available on streaming, or at least not on Spotify. And so those are two albums that I have not heard, but is there any plans to release them?
You know, it's interesting because when we tour, people bring us those albums to sign, and I don't even know where they get it. Like they get it on eBay somewhere, or there's one album that actually even had my signature on it. So it was like circling around. So people ask us about it a lot. It might be cool to maybe do some package. Maybe when we release the next album, there'll be like a special edition package of all the albums. We can reprint them, but I don't know. It's just those few first two albums doesn't really, they don't sound like us at all now. And also
Yeah,
we had like weird label things. It was some other labels we were on before that I don't know. It was just like a big mess.
So
So
there's
I
yeah.
think
some
part
legal
of it,
complications that might be
yeah.
involved in that too.
Well, we went back, and at some point we had to go get those taken down, and then so we have ownership of them again. It's just a matter of deciding, because when we hit, so those first two albums were kind of like struggling to find the sound, and then there was an interim period where we put out an EP called Alive. And Alive was when we started working with Mike Plotnikoff, and we were trying to find where's the industrial, where does it feel right? So that was the kind of the shift into going into Universe and all of those the first albums that put us with Frontiers, which we want to go back at some point and release the three albums, from Frontiers on our own label, or maybe bring it to Napalm. It's warrants a further discussion, but so probably we'll first go back and get Universe, Hologram, and The Unknown and re-release those. And then we could maybe look at the older stuff, because there was quite a bit of older stuff where we're fishing around for a sound, and
Well,
you know
from a historical standpoint, probably some of your hardcore fans would like it. I'll give you a couple examples that I think of. Now, there's bands where their first albums gave you their sound instantly. Black Sabbath is one of those. That sounds like Sabbath all the way. The first Zeppelin album sounds like Zeppelin. But I'll say David Bowie, for example, his first album sounds nothing like the rest of his albums. Or a band like Genesis, their first album, from Genesis to Revelation, it's called just nothing like what they ended up sounding. So it just became a historical archive sort of, and people would go back to it. You get a few more streams, you get some interest from people that have heard everything else. And I personally don't think it hurts too much for people to know, hey, they had a different sound. This is part of the story of Edge of Paradise. They came from here and they went to here. They really evolved, because some bands really do evolve. Some start off with a bang. You guys obviously evolved, and you hit your mark around the universe, time, and that kind of stuff. But I don't know. For me, I'd love to see it if you can ever work out the legality of it.
Yeah, I
But
think if we would do that, we would probably do it only physical product. Just because, if people are first discovering you and then they go to the first album and think it's like the latest release,
well, you know
I'd
what?
Yeah.
rather them not do
I'll
that.
tell you something about streaming though. So we experienced some of this as well. You can almost quietly introduce those albums to your streaming platforms. You put the year of release, and as long as you put the year of release, not 2025, you put it down as 2011, 2002, whatever it was, it'll just go into your releases chronologically. It will not pop up as you don't want it to pop up as your newest release. Absolutely not. If it was going to do that, I'd pull it right down because that's not representative of your sound.
Yeah,
Right.
But yeah, you can do that by we did that as well. We released a couple things that we did
interesting.
not
Yeah.
want to pop up. But for in our case, it's just a stupid side story, but basically our number one track is a track that was sung in the Cantonese language. So if somebody goes to our website, just because we had a following at one time in China, we went over there and did all this stuff there, that they see this song or they hear this song in Cantonese, and probably a lot of people turn away and they don't listen to the rest and go, that's not what I thought Liquid Blue
Oh,
was.
that's
Maybe it's some
interesting though.
other band or whatever. But yeah, anyways, you can do it that way if you ever decide to release it. But I also wanted to get into your touring a little bit and your past and present in that way. So I know it's mentioned in your bio that you guys have toured 30 countries. Was that mostly in Europe, and was that routed by your label? And when did you do a tour like that?
Well, there's been a lot of kind of big tours lately. Well, full European tours we had in 2019 with Sonata Arctica, and then one like a few months ago with Symphony X. Those were really long European tours. And then we had a UK tour in 2021. But we did like 5 USA tours in the last 3 years that were like long, full-on tours, and
We,
they
we did
crossed into Canada.
Japan. We did Japan in
Oh yeah, we did
2019.
Japan.
Was that
But
fun?
Japan was a few
Yeah.
shows. Yeah.
Yeah, it was super fun.
Mhm.
Very cool. Yeah. And Europe was probably really fun. I noticed that you guys have some followers on Spotify. You've got a lot of followers from Finland. So did
Yeah.
you ever tour Finland?
Yeah, we were there a few months ago. That was our first time we played. It was so cool. We played the venue. It's like I forget the name. It's like Kultura, really, really long Finnish name. But it's the venue that Led Zeppelin played. The only show in Finland that they played at was at that venue. It's this beautiful theater. It was so cool. Yeah,
I
Finland
think
is
it was called
amazing.
House of Culture, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Like,
if you translate it. Yeah.
That's an interesting, thing to note that you went there and now you've got a lot of people listening to you from a country that doesn't usually pop up as like the one with the most listeners. And actually, three of the five countries that I saw on your Spotify streamers were European countries. So I think the touring obviously was good, and you probably gained a lot of fans from that. I was wondering what your favorite city as a tourist destination was on tour, and also what your favorite live show experience was.
That's always the hardest question because every city is really cool in its own way. I don't know. I mean, Japan is very cool because it's so different. It's like going to another planet. So it's always very memorable. I mean, Europe is also, I love touring in Europe because it's just so beautiful. And I kind of grew up more in the European part of the world. So for me, it's always great. I mean, I love to go to France. Netherlands is always cool. Budapest was super beautiful. And the fans are just so when you go across Europe, it's interesting because some parts are fans are really loud, and then you go into like Denmark and like Uh, yeah, I feel like Denmark and Belgium fans are very supportive, but they're more quieter, they're more proper. So sometimes you would think like, do they hate us? But then, after the show, you're like, oh, it's just, they respond in a different way. But if you go to Eastern Europe, it's completely different. Like they're so they're just on fire and they're so expressive. So it's always interesting to kind of like travel through Europe and see how different, people, the crowds react. And then, US as well. Um, I don't know. I can't pick my favorite city. It's every city has its own kind of interesting and great, memories. So,
I would envision that at a live show that the track The Unknown would just be huge at those shows, especially when that power section kicks in. I would think the crowd would go crazy on that. And I've never seen you guys live. That's just my vision of what it would be like. Is that accurate?
yeah, I hope we can see you one one of these days. That
Well,
would
you
be
have a show on February 7th in
yeah.
Garden Grove, so we should tell people about that. And so that should be fun, all right? Are you
Mhm.
guys looking forward to
Yeah.
that gig?
Yeah, it's gonna be we're gonna be headlining that show because lately our sets have been around 35 minutes because we've been, as support on tours. So in February, it's our headlining show and it's gonna be a long set. We're gonna be doing a lot of the songs from the older albums. So and we're gonna have keyboard player Alex Nasla. He's joining us on stage on keyboards. So that's gonna be really cool to kind of amplify our sound live. So we're really looking forward to that one.
That's cool. I wanted to talk about your art a little bit now. I was really blown away when I realized that you are an artist as well. There's just so many things that you do. The talent is extraordinary. So you have been doing art for how long? What did you get involved in first, music or art in your young years?
Well, I've always painted kind of growing up with my mom. My mom, she does a lot of art, so I've always grew up loving that. And growing up in Moscow, we would go to museums like every other day, so it was just a really big part of my life. But I think for the band, I remember one time I just painted something because I just missed making art and I posted it on Facebook and someone wanted to buy it. And I was just really surprised by surprised by it. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll make another one. And people just started showing interest in the art. And that was around 2019. So I remember when we were releasing Universe, I was like, well, maybe it'll be something cool for people if I make these um boxes, box sets. So I got these wooden boxes and I painted the top of it and I put the CD, the postcard, like signed band photo, and people really loved that. And from then I started incorporating art into our releases more and more. And then I started painting on the side, and it just kind of became a part of the band. So now every time we release an album, there's always something that comes with whether it's like a lyric and art book or like the graphic novel that came with hologram. Um, but yeah, I just been making paintings, you know, on the side pretty much every week now. So it become a big part of what we do.
And how can your fans purchase your work?
On our web store, it's edgeofparadisestore.com. There's a lot of canvas prints of my past artwork, so that's available for purchase, or they can also commission a painting. Um, yeah, if you can just scroll through edgeofparadisestore.com, you'll see an option where you can commission a painting, and then the graphic novel is on there as well.
That's great. Well,
Yeah.
you guys got a lot going on, and that's wonderful. So, what's in store for 2026? After that show, do you guys have any other plans for next
Mhm.
year?
Well, we're going back to Europe in May. We're playing a festival in Germany, and we're gonna have a few headlining shows around that. And then we have a full European tour in October.
Wow.
And we're gonna have some USA tours, so we're trying to figure that out right now. But I think we're gonna start working on the next album as well, probably release a single sometime soon. But yeah, we're always doing something. We're releasing another music video for Martyr Monster, which is one of the songs off of Prophecy. We went on a really cool location. So that's going to be coming out probably first week of January, maybe second week of January.
Oh, that's a lot of exciting stuff. You guys are just so prolific and never stop. I'm sure you expend a lot of energy, but it's great. It's great to be doing what you love, isn't it? It's like I've been in
Yeah,
music
it's
most of my life, and I love
yeah,
every part of it. It's always fun. It's fun doing these interviews. For me, I get to interview some of my favorite artists, which is cool. I get, firsthand the inside story from an artist like Edge of Paradise or whoever, and it's just so much fun. But making music and playing live, we're all very lucky to be involved in this business. So my
Yep.
hats off to you guys. You guys are really incredible, and
Thank you.
I really
thank
want to see you guys just continue with the same spirit that you've had. It's just amazing.